Good morning, my friends. Well, morning for some of us, anyway. Well, some of us, anyway. Good morning, my friends, and welcome to the Space Game Junkie podcast. I, as always, am your co-host, Brian, and joining me, shockingly, as always, for a morning show, is your co-host, Jim.
Shocking.
Yeah, you're working from home today, so it's nice to have you here. Also joining us is your co-host, Spaz.
Morning, everybody.
And we have two guests, y'all, joining us from Portugal. First in Odemira, the developer and game designer of Interstellar Space Genesis, the game we're talking about today, Adam Solo.
Hello.
And
happy
also
to be here.
Yeah, we're very happy you're here too. And also joining us from Portugal, but in Lisbon, developer and art director of the game, Hugo Rosado.
Hello all. Yeah, it's perfect.
Wow.
Glad to be here. Hi.
Thank you for joining us, folks. We are here to talk about your Master of Orion 2 homage. Not direct port, clearly, but, Love Fest. Let's call it a Master of Orion 2 Love Fest. Interstellar Space Genesis. Now, my first question is, your company is called Praxis Games, right?
Right.
Is that named after the moon that exploded in Star Trek 6?
Well, that was one idea. That was one of the things we liked about it, yes. Not the source of the name, but one of them, yes. I can confirm.
That's awesome, because that's the first thing I thought of anyway.
Because in Latin, praxis means it's the heart of doing something. So the idea is to tell that it's the heart of doing games. So that's the idea.
That was also the idea.
Oh.
Yes,
it's one of the ideas.
Yeah. So think like the root of axis being in that.
I got it. So let's start at the beginning. Adam, for many years, if folks don't know, you ran an awesome space game news site, blog, review site called Space Sector.
Thank you.
What was the impetus to change direction from running the site to actually making your own game?
And you could admit that it was actually us that we ran.
No, come on.
Yeah, I mean, competition was just too fierce.
He's here like Jon Snow to bend the knee.
Come on.
No, not at all. For several years, we started in 2009, so like 8 years. We've been growing the site, and it was a great experience. I had a lot of fun. The contributors did a fantastic job, and I think we managed to create a great community around what at the time was a genre that was a bit dormant. There weren't that many space strategy games at the time, maybe a couple, but not really one or two a year, but more like one in 3 years or 4 years.
So God, yeah, that was
the need. And the first article was really the beginning. What's next? It was the article, and I was really keen to develop that and to see where we could go with the site. And it started growing. The community was starting to form, and there were and we were growing every year. So yeah, it was not lack of audience or that led us to another path. It was really, I think, it may sound a bit cheesy or cliche, but like a calling for a mission to do something about it, to do something about the genre that was what was the site about. Mostly it was about Forex games. And we could see in the community that there was a great hunger and great need for good space Forex games and other types of Forex games, of course. And every time I was seeing that people really wanted that game, and that game was not coming. That game, well, there were several tries, there were other ventures, but really
Yeah.
nobody picked up the formula. One way or the other, the formula would get very distorted, and you would end up with a different game, which is okay, but never fulfilling that desire. Of course, this was 5 to 6 years ago. And then there was this moment. That's what you say. When did you started to think to shift? Well, I think the moment was around middle 2012 with an article called Master of Orion 4 cause, because at the time Kickstarter was a big thing, was appearing, and we will be starting to see games appearing there. And why not? I started that article to see what the communities thought about it. Hey, wouldn't it be cool to see a Master of Orion inspired game in Kickstarter? There are all kinds of games now appearing, and the response was huge. I already knew that most of the community, not all, of course, was very fond of Master of Orion, the Master of Orion series, of course. And so, and people there were saying, well, maybe we should do something about it. Maybe you should do something about it, but nothing very specific. But that idea started brewing in my mind, and I already had that desire to one day develop my own game. It's one of my long-time dreams to work on games, apart from being an astronaut that didn't materialize, but close, because I worked in the space industry for quite some time in space sector. Yeah, so you know.
Oh, I did not know that.
I worked on the space sector, Portuguese space sector, in the European Space Agency.
Wow.
For 6 months, and in the Portuguese space sector for 8 years, and I had a blast. Some things didn't turn out all right, but that was personal issues mostly, not problem in the company. And I decided to do my own thing, and then I moved on. But this to say that it was a long time dream. So I felt the calling, the feeling to do something about it. So the idea starts brewing, and eventually I decided. I asked my colleagues. I basically informed them that I had that desire, and they supported me and said, "Well." And let's face it, at the time we were not alone. You were around. Explorminate was around. There were other sites picking up on the genre. So I felt, well, this is not going to be left in the void. No. So why not? So I embraced the cause, and here we are. 5 to 6 years later, here we are.
Yeah, we should have you talk to our guest from last week sometime. I'd like to be a fly on the wall for that conversation, because he was a NASA employee for a while.
Mm.
Oh, right.
With the ESA, so
yeah, it will be great to share the European Space Agency experience with NASA.
So can you tell us the truth about flying saucers? Are you allowed to speak about that?
Well, unfortunately, nobody there disclosed anything classified.
So here's the thing. You're right that a lot of people have made the attempt to emulate Master of Orion, and no one's really, let's just be honest, there have been a lot of not so great. What do you think it is about Master of Orion 2 especially that makes all these developers want to try striking lightning again? Because it's basically Master of Orion 1 and 2 were kind of like lightning in a bottle. Like, there have been attempts to emulate it, but they haven't been the most successful, you know?
Well, it's a track record that's a lot like the original XCOM, right? It's like we went, 20 years? Nobody could manage to make a decent XCOM clone.
But there wasn't attempt after attempt after attempt like there is with this genre.
Oh, yes, there was.
Come on. Was there?
Oh, yeah. There was a lot. You don't know them because they were all pretty terrible.
Oh.
Yeah.
You might be right.
But yeah, Master of Orion 2, though, it's like if you look at every 4X game that's out there right now, especially this year being just an avalanche of 4X games.
Oh, dear Lord.
And they're all sort of you know, is your game more Master of Orion 1 inspired, or what? Because it seems like Master of Orion 2 has been pretty heavily mined this year.
Sorry, that was a question to me?
Yeah, I was just wondering if yours leans more toward the mechanics of Master of Orion 1 or 2.
Well, it has a few inspirations, of course, by inherency, because Master of Orion 2 also picked up from that. I mean, the turn-based tactical combat or the ship designer, or that Master of Orion 2 evolved. But you mean strictly from things from the Master of Orion 1? Yes, there were a couple big inspirations that come up to my mind, yes, directly from Master of Orion 1, namely the tech tree. The way the technology works is a bit more akin to Master of Orion 1, and while Master of Orion 2 combined, the random part comes from the Master of Orion 1 formula. And then another area where we picked up a bit from Master of Orion 1 was also how seamless and very streamlined it was to develop your colonies there. But of course, not so much streamlined. But also, what I mean is to find a middle ground between Master of Orion 1 and Master of Orion 2 ways of developing the colonies, because you could just set your sliders and develop your infrastructure in the Master of Orion 1, while in Master of Orion 2 you had to build everything. And it was quite a lot. As we know, it's one part of the game that was not very particularly streamlined and caused some headaches, especially late game. So we picked up more that idea of, okay, how maybe we could just allocate areas. Okay, it's like sliders. We have sliders in there, or a triangle location if you prefer. And just don't worry about it too much. I just want to focus the production on those areas and then go to my own thing. Or if you want, you can fine-tune that and also build stuff that you will not find as many buildings, maybe, but more probably meaningful buildings. So we tried to fuse a bit a Master of Orion 1 in there for the seamless part, to try to negate the heavy micromanagement.
Yeah,
Master of Orion 2.
Yeah, folks.
So that's what comes from top of my mind.
Yeah, folks, if you're unaware, it's kind of neat. For planetary management, you have a power triangle similar to the one in, say, iWar, I think, where you can move the triangle around and you can change. I think Starport Gemini also does this, where you can move the power to 3 different things based on what you want, like industry and ecology.
Yeah.
And what's the third one? Industry
and plane construction. So
construction,
like
right?
Buildings,
right,
and ships.
But one thing I also liked about the planet, which the planet stuff, is that once you colonize stuff, you can choose a specialization for that specific planet. It can be like, I want this planet to build ships. I want this to be a planet of industry. You know, I really like that, because that was the thing I was enjoying. Is that, I mean, in the early game, not so much, but as things start to evolve, you keep getting interesting decisions thrown at you. So was that a conscious design decision to consistently and constantly give the player decisions to make every turn if possible?
Exactly. It was. I mean, that comes right from the source, right? From the civilization games, from Sid Meier's philosophy that I follow or try to follow, and that I think it's the right way to provide more depth to a game, is to present the players with decisions and options that have an impact, and that are as closely as in waste as possible, so that you can have a moment where you will gain pleasure from deciding where do you want to invest more, what you want to take out from something. So yes, we try to do that, and it's not easy because you cannot overdo it. It must have an impact of some sort, and especially try to have some synergy. So you will see that in the infrastructure specialization that you see, that you can specialize your colonies and make decisions there of where you want to go, where you want to specialize, and you have other areas as well. So yes, it was a conscious decision to provide meaningful decisions to the player. You will see that in the research, where you will have to make some mutually exclusive decisions, or in the social engineering culture system, where you will also need to do some mutually exclusive decisions on how you want to level up your civilization in space.
Now, I gotta say, one thing I really loved is the multi-layered exploration mechanic. Because I don't know about y'all, but exploration is my favorite part of any 4X. And not only do you guys have, the standard, let's send a ship around to check the systems. You also have kind of a Hubble telescope type thing going, where you point your stuff at a sector and it takes several turns. I don't think I've ever seen this in a game where you point like let's say your Hubble telescope at a sector and it takes like 4 to 8 turns to find something there that your ships might not have found. Like yesterday, I found a rogue planet that my ships never found as they were flying about. I thought that was great. Where did that come from? That's an awesome idea.
That comes really from the beginning, and I think it's one of those things that will set us apart, because it's really one mechanic that has not been seen much or at all.
Agreed.
This idea that crossed the mind of some of us some time ago, and we discussed this, I'm sure, in the forums and in spacesector.com itself, where there were people discussing this, and we are, well, why aren't there? I mean, we have telescopes, for God's sake. Why can't we see some things right from remotely? And we thought that was a good idea to explore, and but of course we had to find a way to translate it to a fun mechanic. And so that was one of the first prototypes I think we did for the game in terms of gameplay, was to see if it could work. And it was quite a challenge to make it work so that it will be fun and not just make it too much or make it appealing. So, and in general, people are reacting to it very positively. They like it very much. They say it's a very nice way to do some more meaningful stuff in the beginning, and they feel it's great to be discovering things. So you may discover hidden systems that you don't knew before, and this is linked with real physics. Like there are some objects that right now we really can't find yet, or we can only make a guess that they are there. Stellar remnants like black holes, neutron stars, other exotic objects, or brown dwarfs, white dwarfs. So these kind of things will pop up. And we also thought about, well, wouldn't it be cool also to not know everything about your systems right from the beginning? Okay, you can move your ships, but in Master of Orion 2 and in many other games, probably almost all of them, you go and that's it. You find everything about that system. So we thought, well, here's a good opportunity to you can send your ships, and if they are regular ships, if they are not survey ships, then you only see some part of the story. You will not know if it's rich or not, or if it has a special. So you can over time uncover that. So we thought that was working pretty well, and we're confident that it will be a good selling point for the game, because it's at least right now quite innovative, and it's being well received, as I said.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Sorry.
That in these games has always kind of troubled me, and I'm glad to see that you're addressing it. Where just here from Earth, we can look at other stars around, and we might not know what the weather's like, but we know that there's a planet there, and it's in a habitable range, and such. So we can say, well, this system over here, we know that there's 5 exoplanets. Yeah. We don't know if they're livable or not, but we can tell that that's a good prospect. We should maybe send a probe there. But that's another thing that I've kind of wondered about too, is whenever humans finally do, if we live that long, send out, to other planets, I'm thinking like the first thing that we would do, instead of just sending like a ship full of people, would be like some sort of automated probe, almost like the robots that we send to Mars, except that we'd fling that to Alpha Centauri and see what's there. And I don't know if anybody has ever addressed that, where you actually send like mechanical stuff first, and it's not a, you're not risking your people or whatever, but it might take like more time to get that info back.
Yeah. We are abstracting that in a sense.
Yeah.
So when you do remote exploration, you are using your telescopes, of course, but you can think that robotic probes are being sent as well, and that kind, because it's a continuous process. You take several turns to reach the new level of information, then more turns to the next, and you're revealing information bits by bits. So you can imagine that there are probes being sent. You just don't manage them directly. So you could see it like that.
Is that a technology that you develop through the game, or is that just an early game technology and use it, and then it becomes not so useful once you have ships that can just fly there faster?
Well, interestingly, we didn't feel the need, at least yet, to link that with the technology, but we could. I mean, it's linked with the social engineering aspect. So if you are an explorer type more of civilization, then you get perks to make remote exploration faster, or even to do two at the same time. So we thought that will probably fit there better in the way that your civilization likes to explore and expand on space. I mean, are you an explorer? Then okay, then you are going to invest in telescopes and in probes, and you are going to see the universe from afar. So that we felt that, but technologically we didn't feel that. But I admit that it's quite obvious to make that link. Then you'll have better telescopes and better technology. So we'll see. Maybe there will be technology as well. But for now, no. It's a complete system that it's outside of the technology. It's linked again with the culture system. If your civilization is an explorer, technology, no. You just take those turns and to reach those levels of knowledge, and it's independent of the technology you have, at least at the moment.
So do you have like different victory conditions based on what culture you have, like an explorer type race? Once they've explored enough stuff and managed to just not get killed, do they win or something?
No, not yet. The victory conditions right now are the traditional conquer the map thing, and we plan to do the election type of diplomacy victory, where if you are elected, then you win, like in Master of Orion 2 or in other games. And then we have two other systems in mind for two other victory condition types. One that probably will not be done for release and probably only for the DLC related with the game story. But the other one is we'll try to explore a new way for victory conditions in this type of, because they aren't very good usually, if not plain bad in all of these games. Because it's not really the quantity, it's really how will you do it, but then do you want to finish the game or not? Or I don't know, for one reason or the other is really tricky to do these kind of monolithical victory conditions with, okay, you have to explore everything or you have to colonize X amount of planets. Or so with that said, maybe not these big economical victories or technological victories, but maybe more on an achievement-based victory. We will toy a bit with that. You see, like you have to do this and that, and then you win, and maybe you have several options, or that you pick, or that are thrown at you, or that are always there, and we can toy around with that and see if it works in this kind of game, so that people know, have a goal, and say, well, if I do this, then I win. Maybe they are happy to do that, or maybe they will switch that off.
Yeah, I've always wanted to play a pacifist race that had a victory condition called "We're still here." You're 400 turns in the game. Hey, we're still here.
Oh, right, sure. You could add that as well, or a time victory, or embedded in these type of achievements.
Well, that's sort of like the one city challenge in the Civilization games. You start out with one city, and that's all you get.
Mhm.
and your civilization is stuck to that city. You could destroy other cities from other civilizations, but you still have to be standing at the end somehow.
Yeah, you could have an achievement of that sort. Yes.
Yeah, I'm
You
still
can-
waiting on. I'm still waiting on somebody to make like a Dune universe sort of 4X where it's like there's almost like a Europa Universalis where there's just here's the existing universe, but it's not like what Stellaris did because it would be more politics, right? So it's like if you're not one of the superpowers, it's just like okay, we just continue to exist, like nobody's destroyed us yet.
No one is ever
Yeah.
going to make that. No one is ever going to make that because all the pedants are going to come out of the woodwork and just correct every little frickin' thing. No developer's going to want to touch that just to deal because they don't want to deal with the community.
Yeah, I don't mean like Dune specifically or whatever, but almost
But on the
okay, like
scale of-
like one of your favorite games, right? Emperor of the Fading Suns, like
Yes.
that, right?
Oh.
It's like you could play like a minor kingdom in that, and it's like you're never gonna sit on that throne, but just the fact that you're still there 400 turns later means that you did something, right?
Interesting.
Sadly, that game was a flop. That's why we haven't seen many more games like it, which is such a crime.
Yeah.
Such a goddamn crime. I did want to ask about the cultural stuff on each planet. Now, the cultural stuff is empire-wide, right? It's not specifically
Right.
planet-based, right? How does that work exactly? Like, I know you can pick boosts for your own empire, but does that affect your relationship with other empires as well?
It may. There are some perks. Some of them are not even all implemented. So some perks, cultural perks, are related to diplomacy that will grant you bonuses, and we also have an idea to make the choices a bit like in conflict. So like if you pick something, you may get in trouble with another race. So yeah, that idea is there. It's not yet there. We are not there yet. Where the point where we will have conflict, like in Alpha Centauri, right? You pick this and I pick that, so we are enemies, and we are enemies, or we are friends because you are also an environmentalist. So that kind of mindset is what we have in mind for the future of the system. Right now, it's really plain. It's really you get that and you get that and you get. You cannot get everything, and you can invest in culture to get more perks, and they are like transversal, like horizontal to your empire. They give you bonuses to various types of areas, and the rationale for it was really when I was thinking about it, I really like cultural systems from Alpha Centauri and Civilization 5. I think they're great, and I think these would work. So I was thinking, well, why? I think this would be great if these would represent how would civilizations approach space exploration and colonization. How would it be? Will they go? Why are they going? Why are we going to space? I was trying to reply to these existential questions about space. So why culturally, right? Why are we going, and where, and what areas are more appealing to us? So I thought these three areas of the cultural system were possibly the three main reasons why we go and explore and call into space, which is we go there because of the knowledge, because we want to know, because we want even to learn and to apply and to fix things here. So this is mostly NASA thinking thing, right? We go for the knowledge and for the science. So that's the knowledge tree. And then you have no, we prefer to go because economically it makes all the sense. So it's asteroid mining, it's space tourism, it's the exploitation of planets, it's that kind of mindset. And then you have the other one, which is no, we just go because it's there. It's the adventure, the pioneers, it's the frontier. So we go because that's what drives us. And then this will be, I think, interesting to see the dynamics of each race, which prefers what, and also your chance to role play a bit to see. Well, I want to really exploit things this time. I really want to get to the money, get to the exploitations, or I want to let's go for the adventure and let's go to be friends with the other races, or for the knowledge because we are not interested really In other races, we just want to do our own thing and just get the information and maybe apply it on our own race and our own world and improve our lives. This was the rationale behind the cultural system and the effects it has in the game and the long-term idea, as you say, of if you pick this, then you may upset some guys, and if you pick that, so like you are not a big explorer like me, you are an exploiter. So we don't like you so much. So that's the idea.
Yeah.
So are you going to do
Mm.
anything with like a trade culture where like a particular race would want to be like a dominant business?
Yeah,
people?
that will go in the wealth tree. So that will go in the exploitation wealth rationale.
Okay.
So that will go in the middle of the tree, and we may expand the trees with more perks. These are there as a work in progress to see what the people say. Some people, we are quite happy with the feedback so far because at the beginning people were saying, well, but I always pick the same ones, which I think are the best. But then it was curious to see other people saying, no, I pick the other ones and they are the best for me. So it's coming along. So we may have more perks.
Yeah, I really like how it adds kind of a, like you mentioned, a role-playing element to the game.
Have your
which,
civilization.
right, because really there isn't a. I think where a lot of these 4X games fail is character in the races, character in your emperor. You know, and adding that kind of element that allows you to tweak your empire as you go really just adds a bit of flavor that I think a lot of 4X games are lacking.
Yeah.
You know, which is nice
Oh,
to see.
They can give you some starting perks, but then you don't really. Everything else you gain, like technology, you gain during the game. That's fine, but it doesn't actually add personality to
Exactly.
your
Exactly.
chosen race, because those aren't perks. You have to decide between one type of perk or the other, and that's an actual meaningful choice.
I think again that's one of the reasons Alpha Centauri has always done so well is because the different factions. Since you brought it up, I thought about this. The different factions have such personality. You know, they're just so different. And this perk system at least seems like a way that you can differentiate yourself from the other factions as the game goes on, which is really nice.
Yeah.
So what are you gonna do as far as like spying and that? Because it was I can't remember the name of the race in Master of Orion. The guys that were
the Darloks.
Like the shadows, yeah, Darloks. Are you guys going to have a mechanic that's something like that, where you can have people that are more information broking type guys?
Yeah, more on the latter. Races, we haven't associated a race yet with like being espionage spy masters or something like that. No, it's not yet decided that part. Regarding espionage, right now there's none yet, but there will be some sort of mechanic at release. And what we are aiming to do is, well, perhaps not the traditional way of doing espionage, like you said. Well, we may have a race that specializes a bit, but not in the traditional way that you build your spies and you allocate them somewhere and they stay there and you build more and more and more, and then it's just a counter intelligence thing. I think that was done already. It was relatively well. I think it was done well in Master of Orion, perhaps more in one, I guess. But what we'll do is something a bit more streamlined about the espionage, but still meaningful. And sabotage, by the way, which is to link it with the leader system. It sounds odd, but to link it with, so you have your leaders, you will have your spies there. Your spy masters will be there. So maybe if you have spy master or you gain that skill, they can do stuff for you. So maybe that you can not send them away, but maybe assign them to some race or some other civilization or something to spy or to steal or to frame or to sabotage, that kind of thing. So, and to relate the espionage system or to integrate it like with the leader system. So with that, You will have your traits, you will have your skills in your leaders, and they will do the espionage for you, and you will get your thing without having to manage tons of spies and having to check every time where they are. And so a bit more of a seamless, more streamlined experience, but again, always ensuring that you have the nuts and bolts there of espionage, something that you decide, something that you maybe they will give you something for you to decide. Should I go? What should I do? Should I frame? Should I steal? And then as the skill progresses from basic, advanced to expert, the leader may gain access to others espionage options. So that's the plan. That's the design at the moment. It's not implemented yet, but that's where we are aiming to go with espionage, sabotage, and framing.
Yeah, I would like to see like a more of a manipulation sort of espionage in games. You know, where it's like, well, we're not blowing your stuff up or whatever, but we're kind of like screwing around with your culture or whatever, or you know, like or you could get two other civilizations to go to war with each other and then sit back and sell them stuff. Because if I could put two people in financial distress and then I happen to be there as the bank, it's like, oh, I'll make you guys a loan. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a possibility. And that's where the framing system, where you'll try to find opportunities like those to start to blame others and to start wars, or to have some effects at a distance by that framing system. I don't know if it's a different skill or if it's part of it, if your spy master is an expert or not. But if I understood your question correctly, it was about that, right? To influence stuff and to frame others and at a distance, cook something, cook things.
Yeah, because it's a thing of maybe I want your culture to do something or to not do something, and it's not necessarily that I want to destroy something that you have or steal something that you have. I just want you to behave in a certain way. So if I can exert some pressure, on the AI, it's sort of almost like an extension of the diplomacy system.
Yes,
where it's like, you know, in normal diplomacy in these games, basically the only diplomacy that you have is I'm going to give you a pile of money and I want this in exchange, or I'm not going to attack you as long as you do this. But there's nothing more subtle that you can do that's more like, well, you know, maybe you should go colonize that planet over there, or not colonize that planet. Because how many times have you seen, you know, you discover a planet and it's like, oh, that's a perfect planet, and then they get a colony ship coming and it's like, oh darn, now it's a race to see who's going to get it. And if you could just like pay them to just like, hey, don't settle there, okay? It's like, I want that planet, but before, because if they take it, then you have to go and bomb them off of it or something.
Yeah, it's something that I also enjoy, that kind of control and possibilities, but in a way that it's not catastrophic for relations. Otherwise, what's the point? So, and that's the problem I see usually in games that offer these cooperation possibilities or demand. But then the costs are just too much. And even if you are friends with someone, you cannot just demand nothing from them. I think that's an opportunity here. And that's one of the things we want to exploit in diplomacy, is more cooperation actions that are feasible, that are even with your friends or even neutrals, but they are feasible, that they are not going to get upset immediately and just declare war. Right. So we are going to try cooperation for sure. It's a thing we want to explore. Oh, please, could you help me here? Or could we coordinate in going there? Oh, there are games that are doing that, of course. But we usually don't see that coming for reaching a satisfying conclusion. Something, oh, I'm really cooperating here, and they are not pissed at me, and we are really exchanging information and ships, and perhaps I could send them a sector scanning information and or demand that they please don't go to that system because it's so great and you are friends, so why not? I mean, why would they immediately reduce to not friends or neutral? And then I think it's bad for the player because it doesn't feel in control. It's not having fun. So I agree. There must be ways, more soft ways to do these things that are more effective.
Yeah, thing that
something
occurs
like a
to me-
lend lease actually would be interesting to see.
Yeah.
That you could lend them, say, 10 frigates, and in return they would give you access to travel through their system, through one of their systems, or you could use their system as a resupply base.
Yeah.
Well,
And go ahead.
Well, a thing that I haven't seen is as far as making a game mechanic out of it. So if you had almost like karma or goodwill with somebody that was points, and it's almost like a currency, right? Like I've done this for them. I didn't ask for anything back, but what I get is I get this friendship currency that I can spend later. It's
So
like, okay, now
influence,
I want a
basically.
favor. Yeah, pretty much influence. Where it's like, oh, I see you're at war. Here, I'll loan you some ships, and those ships will cost you like 1 point of influence per turn. And then whenever I want to call a favor, then it's like, oh, well, now I've got this pool of influence points that I can spend to ask you to do things. And but they don't necessarily have to do it, but or the price of doing it might be pretty extreme. But then with races where you make them dislike you, you would go into debt in karma, and then have to like dig out of the hole if you want to get back to peace with them. So you could just have a way of keeping track of that, if it, because a lot of games have had like an opinion slider. It's like, do they like me, do they not like me? But that's not a tangible thing where I can say, okay, I got 10 points I can spend on something in diplomacy.
Yeah, I know that some games have done that. I tried, or I don't know how successful, like Civilization Beyond Earth, and others, I think, to use a pool of influence as currency. The trouble there, as I see as a signing point of view, is if you, as we are saying, they are not obliged to do it, but why not? I mean, if you have the influence, what decides they are going to do? Is it a random thing? But then the player will not understand that. I mean, why? I have the influence, we're friends, why don't you do it? So I think it's tricky to do it like that, but I understand the need to have some indicator that tells you, well, what you can do and what you can.
Right.
And
Well,
this
there might
this
be a way to
connects
make
with
it
the
work.
thing we were talking about. I mean, like, can I demand these? Can I, without pissing them off? So if you had these influence points, you will know you can spend them, and the race will not go upset.
Right. I guess
that's a way.
I guess that would. It would have to be reflected in the cost, right? Like I couldn't say, well, hey, I've got a little bit of influence, and I demand that you give me your homeworld. That would be no.
Of course.
But I could see that happening if I have saved them time and again from being destroyed, and then I spend that influence to actually make them like a vassal, right? Where it's like, I'm not going to take over your world or whatever, but we're going to just integrate you politically into my empire.
Yeah,
Star Trek Birth of the Federation did pretty much that. You could continually raise your reputation with a minor race and then bring them into your empire as a vassal. But in terms of this, I would see it working along the lines of what perks you have compared to the perks that the other race has. That would affect your costs.
Yeah, I mean, it's like as opposed to something like Dan DiCicco's Star Drive 2, where opinion is like, oh, they like me. That means they're going to wait 3 turns before they try to kill me. And there's not a lot of diplomacy going on there. It's just like, are you killing me now or later?
Yeah. And that's why it was a conscious design decision in diplomacy to capture that. So for the player to understand what's going on and what he can do and what cannot be done, to be something that it's more discrete. So instead of having those points, we don't have that system of the influence points, but what we have is this. If you are, if we have a relation system, an opinion system, but if you reach a certain step, these are the things that you are allowed to do. You may not reach the step in the same way with every race. Some will be probably harder to get there, but when you get there, you can do it. So, if, for instance, if you reach pleased, you can make trade with them. If you reach friendly, you can trade mining rights. And if you reach congenial, you can do an alliance. Or even if you're friendly, you can research techs with them. I know it sounds very discreet, but that was a constant design decision, and we are going to try to see how it works. It's to address that issue. That if the player has a certain relation, what are my options? So here they are. You can initiate relations. You can exchange techs. Maybe it will work, maybe not, but you will be allowed to do those things. If you don't have enough relations, then you don't even need to worry about it, or to demand or to cooperate, because it will not even be an option. It will. You see, the problem in many games in diplomacy is that you are a bit blind. You are like there. Well, I'll try this. I don't know if it will work, but I will try. And it will not work often. And then you will see your relations decreasing, and you get frustrated. So to get rid of that end definition, we decided to go that way. So if you are friends, you can do these things. You are friendly, you can cooperate in diplomacy and ask them to do stuff, and synchronize attacks, and ask them to declare war, and that kind of thing. So my hope in addressing what you're saying is that with this kind of more discrete system, and that you see exactly what are your options with the other players, you will not need these point systems or guesswork. How can I make them do this? Now you just have to work up the relations. There will be tools to do that.
Okay,
But
yeah,
when you reach them, you know what you can do.
Yeah, I like that a lot better than the classic diplomacy thing where it's like, I pick up the phone and call the Klingons and I say, okay, I want you to share map data, and I want you to give me that technology, and then you hit the button, and then the dice roll, and it happened, or it didn't, and it's like, no, in real negotiations we would sit at the table until we worked it out, right? And it might be like a haggling back and forth, but you don't see in any of this diplomacy stuff, you don't actually see haggling in these games where it's like, offers and counter offers and things. And you might, if there was like a reputation system going on where it was points, yeah, you might have to spend points every round of negotiation, but that doesn't mean it takes like an entire game turn to get it done, kind of thing, right? Yeah. So I don't know. It's just like it's a thing of keeping it a game, and like, because these things, I mean, they're fairly board game sort of things. It's a board game that you would never want to actually try to play on a tabletop, right? Because the computer does all the accounting for you. But it's not a thing of like more like real world politics, where all this stuff happens under the surface, and nobody really knows why that actually happened, except for the people that were in the room.
And
right?
It's already pre-established rules and conditions for you because of relations. So you don't even have that option because of the current state. It's obvious that you don't have that option.
Yep.
So we decided that way. Okay, if you reach that kind of relations, now you have more options to explore, and you can try. That's the same with, for instance, what happens with the tech exchange. We don't allow you to exchange everything you want with them, or to exploit. That's always a problem in this type of game. So it's not like give me your list, I'll give you my list, and I'll pick from there. No, we are going to explore more of okay, I have something for you. We then imagine that there was some talk, and then they say, okay, I can give you this. Are you interested or not? Or maybe I can give you a counter offer. That's it. I mean, it's like more like a real negotiation and an abstract one, where things were said, but you don't really have to pick everything and again guess if that will work. No, in these you will say, I'll give you this. What can you give me? And then the options are presented to you. This is not new. This was done in Alpha Centauri, and I really like that system. I give you this, what can you give me? And he says, well, maybe not, maybe nothing, because I don't have, or because it's not worth it for what you say, or what you offer.
Yeah, and when you're
but
done with this game, if you would do a remake of Alpha Centauri, that would be really nice too, because that's another game that nobody can seem to get right. Even Sid Meier himself can't get that game right. Trying to come around the second time.
I'm sure he did. He wasn't that involved.
I thought Pandora
maybe
came. I thought
the cutting
Pandora
room,
came. Sorry.
Oh, I like that game a lot.
Yeah, I was gonna say I thought
think
Pandora pretty close. I thought
it
really
hit,
close.
It hit some really good stuff. For a game of itself, well, it's good that it's a game on itself. So it's really a spiritual successor, I guess, admitted it or not, but it is, and they did a good job, I think. Well, maybe the races are not as charismatic, and it's not as identifiable, and doesn't have all those voiceovers and those wonder videos and that flavor text in the diplomacy are not as good.
Right.
Okay, so and that was a big part. We have to acknowledge that was a big part of what made Alpha Centauri great. I mean, let's face it, gameplay is important, but graphics and the user interface, mostly graphics and fluff and character, also count a lot. So, do we really need one? I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, because the war stuff was powerful in that, where it's. Yeah, but the one thing that always has bothered me about those kind of games, I mean, as far as a game to be a game, I can completely respect it, but as far as actually, if you imagine like, okay, there's a bunch of colonists that went to this planet, are they really going to bring their baggage from Earth? It's because it's like everybody landed and then they became an extremist of a particular political philosophy, and it's like, well, yeah, okay, that's human nature, I guess, but it's just I don't know. I'm happy for them. Like, all the communists found each other, and
well, it was a bit like Alpha Centauri, also, right? It wasn't probably as characterized as Pandora. Pandora was really, really obvious who was what: the wealth guy, the war guy, the religious guy. But Alpha Centauri, you could also identify fairly well. But they were more nuanced, I think. And that's where the character comes. It's not easy, so Brian did a great job.
I always
it's not
enjoyed,
easy to do.
I always enjoyed playing the eco-terrorist faction. It's like, we're going to hug the trees and therefore we must kill you all.
Yeah, it was really believable. I mean, I don't know how it did it. It really did a fantastic job.
Yeah, and I also like being able to design your own units to the detail that you could in that thing too. And another thing that was really nice about Pandora is apparently they exposed a large amount of the AI where it was like fan editable. I can't remember the guy's name, but he went in and did like just a masterful rework of that AI.
Yeah.
And then he's working on some game now, I guess. He got hired by a studio.
Dominus Galaxia.
Dominus Galaxia.
Yeah.
Which is a Master of Orion 1 homage.
Yep.
Yeah, and by God, the AI better be good. Because if he's working on it,
in the latest
there's no excuse.
In the latest beta,
sorry, be important here. Yeah.
In the latest beta, it's got something called dynamic AI, which I don't think I've ever seen. And you could select the like normal, hard, easy type of AI, but you can also select dynamic AI. I haven't tried that yet. I'm a little afraid to, honestly. But it's a neat that there's an option.
I keep waiting on that expert system AI where it's actually like the AI that plays the game against you is a cloud-based AI that's playing against everybody and it's learning from every game that it's in. And then it just becomes a complete bastard, You'd have to tone it down.
Yeah.
Because if it learns from, well, it's like, did you see the AI project? It was Elon Musk funded it, where they taught an AI. Well, the AI taught itself, basically. They taught it how to learn, and they put it in a game of Dota 2 against itself, and it played itself millions of games, and then it came out and it was beating people in the tournament one-on-one.
Yeah,
and it was doing, what was scary about that is it was doing like super advanced tricks that only people who are like masters of that game actually do. And it learned it on its own just from observing and trial and error.
That's
I read it too.
a division of AI, which is the machine learning. So is applying that maybe.
Yeah, I mean, you can implement a system like that that learns from what you do and sees what worked and what didn't work. But this must be done massively. So you need lots and lots of data. But with that data, if it's a lot and you see, well, that strategy didn't work and that worked, the AI will start to see patterns in it, and it will start to go after what provides the best results. So it's like a brute force approach, but intelligently, right? It tries many times and collects as much data as possible with as much agents as human agents or others as possible. That's what you're saying, like in a cloud, like it's trying many types of players or the bots, and in theory, that's what machine learning gives you. After a while, and with enough data, you will start to see the patterns, and you'll go with you will go in the optimal path, and beat the least experienced, but now, as it seems, even the most experienced one.
And you can do this in small scale if you want.
Yeah, just
for
if
instance,
you want
for
to
these kind of games.
Yeah, or even just to trap human behavior, right? Where you would get, let's say, people play. Well, let's make it easier than your game. If it was fixed races, right, like Star Trek races. So the system could look at like all the players who play Klingons. How do they play? What's their tendencies and stuff, and kind of like build a Klingon opponent that is a collection of all the humans that have played Klingons. And it's not the AI figuring it out. It's just documenting the trends of the people. So then it would become like the player base would determine the personality of that race based on how they all use it. So it's almost like playing a game in single player that's actually against the multiplayer collective personality of everybody.
Yeah, in theory, it can be done, and it has been done. But as Hugo was saying, it can also be done in small scale if you want. I mean, it's not excluded immediately that we will not try something like that. Right now, it's working well with standard approaches for AI implementation, but it's not excluded the possibility to use that for instance, ship design or combat, or we could try. I mean, we both have a background in artificial intelligence, so we know and we have already worked with that, in particular, in machine learning and data mining. So it's something that we sometimes say, well, why not? We could try. We'll see.
Well, that's the thing, like you bring up ship design, right? Like if I was making a game where you had designable ships, I don't know that I would trust myself to actually make the ships that were good, right? Because I might make them thematic or whatever, but then you get some player that comes along that crunches the numbers and min maxes the ships, and then like all of my cool ships are just worthless against a human player because I didn't design it optimally or whatever. But then if as the designer, if you have to design against that min-max player, then it's kind of like, well, you're going to lose your thematic thing as well because, so it just brings like a weird balance thing to the table. So I could see like crowdsourcing that out, right? It's kind of like if you put restrictions like this type of race can only really use these kind of things on their ship, but I'm not going to tell you what the best stuff is. Like go play a million games of this and we'll see what actually worked. Because like going back to Star Drive 2 again, right? Because those are complicated ship designs, and the ability to make a non-optimal ship in there is great, and that's I guess the thing that he did was design the ship designer first and just run a ton of combat in there, because it's just like either my ships are terrible or they're way better than what's there. And
we went with simplification of masters. So you choose your weapons and you have some modifications you can apply, and we Adam can explain better these, but we didn't want to create a complex ship design system here.
No, the idea was not to complicate, for sure, the Master of Orion 1 and 2 systems. No, to streamline, to update his user interface, to make it more appealing and more easier to use, for sure. And then, but yeah, basically, it is a very similar system. The ship design is a very. There are some nuances, new things, like for instance, modifications you can apply to the armor or to the shields. Like the shields, you can choose specific facings, or and the armor you can choose to strengthen the armor or lighten the armor. And in the engines, you also can pick maneuverability that we got from Master of Orion 1. We picked that from there. So we did some kind of a merging here, Master of Orion 1 and 2, for a system that was not going to be more complicated than it was, and with a sprinkle of those interesting decisions that you can context decisions that you can do. Okay, and I want my armor to be heavier, so I know that it will be more expensive and I will have less space. And in the shields, well, I'm going to try my luck, so I'm going only with forward shields. Maybe they will not get very fancy on their strategy and try to corner me or something. So these were that was the mindset. Keep the basics and then add these decisions, high-level decisions to armor, shields, and keep the modifications on the weapons, of course, which is a great feature from Master of Orion 2. Like you can shield pierce, or you can armor pierce, or you can do triple damage or more range, or so we kept all of that.
See, that's a lot more interesting than, oh well, I have blue lasers and then I research lasers again and now I have green lasers, but the only difference is that they're green and they do one more damage.
Yeah,
and
that was
another. So you get +1, +2, +3, so you just get like a linear progression of stuff, and that's a player needs to see some progression as they go, but it gets kind of boring if it's just like laser +3. So being able to actually stick effects on it is really cool.
Yeah, you have these modifications, and certainly you have better weapons as you go, but not necessarily more damage. We took a nod also from Master of Orion 2 and the decisions to make them more meaningful strategy. And so you almost all of the weapons have some particularity, have some side special effect, something that maybe they don't do as much damage, but they have another effect. The paradigmatic example is the neutron gun, or that kills your marines, but does less damage. So it's a trade-off. You have to. It's a more advanced weapon, but maybe it doesn't inflict more damage just because it's more advanced. Maybe it has another effect. So that was the mindset.
That's always more interesting than linear progression.
Yeah, all weapons are different, different names, etc. So we will not have different colors or different. Well, it depends. It depends on the system. I will not deny that there are other parts where we go with the 1, 2, 3 approach. I mean, in the shields, for instance. But that's a design decision because we thought that fit better with the gameplay system to go with better shields. There's no point. We didn't see a point in making them special in some way, because that would first confuse the system and then go in another direction that we didn't want. So, okay, if it's just better shields, then we'll just go with it. It's just like Masters did, but they did right, I think, in that sense. And well, not that they did right, but I think we are going to do right as well, because we just need better shields. They will cost more and take more space. So here you have to make your decision. In the weapons, it's a bit different. Yeah, in the weapons, it's a bit different. It's more. It gives you more character to have them do different things, and you have your beams, you have your kinetics, your missiles. Each has its own modifications, its own ranges, its own special abilities at close range and long range. So we thought that would fit better. In the shields, okay, we go with different shield facings. That's the flavor, and better or worse shields.
So is there any kind of like combined arms stuff with the ships? like if I had a ship that could specialize in, say, anti-missile, but not just for itself, but it would cover other ships that are with it, kind of thing, so that they could have roles within a formation.
Well, from the top of my head, maybe only if you have carriers with fighters, you could do a bit of that and protect in a to gain protection against other fighters or other
or a special somewhere.
Yeah. Well, it's what brings that up, right? I was thinking about what a horror of Endless Space 1 was in ship design. While you were talking about how you'd simplified your ship design, I was just thinking, well, Endless Space 1, Endless Space 2, they fixed it, thank God. But in Endless Space 1, it was just like, well, a ship is a box. It can hold 20 things. So do you want to put 20 of this gun, or what ratio of stuff do you want to stick in here? And it didn't really give a lot of guidance about that. And then I found out later, like if you put like anti-missile defenses on a ship, I didn't need to put a bunch of them. I could have one and it could fire for 4 other ships. So if I had one of these, every 5th ship was an anti-missile ship, that would defend all my ships. And it's like, well, you didn't explain that. It was like I read a guide somewhere on Steam, I think, where somebody was explaining that. And it's just like, I've been playing this game for years and I had no idea that's how that worked. And I was always, for as simple as that ship design stuff seemed to be, I was terrible at it, because it just didn't give a lot of guidance about like, if you have this many of this thing on the ship, then it provides, this ratio of benefit or not. It's like, well, I put a bunch of shields. I never needed that many. I could have got away with a lot less. And then in the new system, they've got just slots on the ship. So it's like, if it's a destroyer, yeah, you get like 2 guns, right? So pick what your guns are going to be, as opposed to, well, a destroyer is 40 units of space. Just put whatever you want in it. And, but then to look at what I think, which game I think did the coolest ship design was Sword of the Stars, the original one, because it was modular. It's just like, I want to stick this nose, this engine, and this midsection together to make a ship, and it had limited slots on there. So it was kind of like, it gave me some freedom, but a battleship's a battleship. It's it's going to do what a battleship does. So yeah, I'm encouraged to hear you guys have streamlined the ship stuff down, mainly because it means that I can make less mistakes. So
yeah.
Anything that helps me not be dumb is
yeah,
good.
I liked it too. I liked it too in Sword of the Stars, and even in Sword of the Stars 2, for as many problems that game had, I think many of the systems were really good. One of those was the ship designer. I really liked to design my ships. Well, I didn't like many other things, but I think the system was very good. I think they picked up from the first. Yes, you had your modules and you picked your stuff. You were constrained. You knew what you were doing. You were putting your weapons. You were putting your systems and even your modules. It was very interesting idea to put different roles according to the modules you put. So yeah, what we aimed was to, as you say, to streamline it a bit and constrain it in the sense that what you put, you will get some. It's a different way. I understand and respect other games that just go the other way, give more freedom in the sense that, well, you can just put everything you want in there and then hope that it works, and let's see. And for the most part, it does. It is also a good system. But no, we went the other way. So it's more streamlined and constrained. So what you put in there, you only put as many as you need. You cannot put 2 systems that will do the same. If you choose that system is picked. If you put that weapon, you can put more weapons, of course, but it will always give you a benefit, and you will be in control of what you're doing. And for the most part, I think it works.
Speaking
quite happy.
Speaking of streamlining, since you guys have launched in crowdfunding, I guess you'd call it. It's not really Steam Early Access. It's crowdfunding.
Well, you could say it's pre-orders.
Pre-order, crowdfunding, alpha funding, I guess.
Yeah.
How has the feedback been in terms of helping you make the game more streamlined and more effective for players? How's the feedback from the community been so far?
It's as every dev will tell you, and it's true. Now I know from the inside, it's really great, and I can't even know we will do it without feedback. So that was one of the main reasons. That, of course, it's also great to have some funds, extra funds to apply to the art and to buy better graphics models and cutscenes. But the important thing was also to get people inside the game to provide early feedback, because if you look, I mean, it's just tiny things, but overall, all these things add up, and in the end, it's a completely different experience. I mean, in the beginning, we focused on the gameplay. Of course, we were not too worried about the user interface, but you have to at some point. And so our VIP group helped us tremendously with that, and now more people are coming every day and helping. Now in a different way, because the user interface is now, it's okay. I mean, it's not great, but and we can talk a bit more about that, what we plan to do in the near future and in the future about the user interface. It's okay now. I mean, people don't complain too much about it, but it was really invaluable. Without them, I don't think it's really feasible for just one or a couple of guys to develop something that will be polished for a release without the support of 50, 100 or more, if possible, 200 people to get all the. I mean, it's, as I say, sometimes it's simple things. Other times it's not, and it's changes that really have an impact. But you really, really have to listen, because it's really invaluable. So I cannot thank enough to our VIP group and to all the people that pre-order, because all their feedback has been valuable to the success so far.
So what, because you mentioned UI changes, because I really like the UI, but you sound like you wanted to talk more about that. So what is coming up in, because if I remember correctly, isn't the next version going to have a kind of a refresh of the UI, of the UI?
Yep. We're finishing testing the revamp of the UI. First, our objective was to link the UI with the game mechanics that Adam designed, and I think we're getting there. And then now we're going through the beautification, if that exists, of the UI, and to create a style, a concept around around it. And now we are starting really thinking about the polishment, not the final polishment for beta or final, but to start thinking about the concept of the game, of the UI. And now in the following weeks, a new release will be launched with a completely new look.
I can't wait to see it. So right now, what are like the big things on your roadmap between, say, now and beta, between now and release? What are some of the big milestones you want to hit along the way to release, would you say?
Yeah. Well, now clearly we want to include all the gameplay features that are still left to implement, namely ground combat, bombardment, race customization. Yeah, it will be great, I hope. And so as a race customization, the espionage mechanic I was talking about, I mean, most of the things are designed, but they are not implemented yet. Ground combat has started right now, for instance. Complete the AI, I mean, not complete, but advanced. Now I would say the AI is about a third of its potential. So we plan to, in the next, so these all in the lines of the next few months, like 3 or even, okay, to the end of the year, we plan to be implementing or to finish adding all the gameplay features and to advance the AI to 2/3 potential. Then the AI will be at full potential only at release, that its public will be hopefully in the end of next year, in the end of 2018. So the next big milestone will be, we'll see if we will do some kind of crowdfunding, so Kickstarter or Indiegogo. So Kickstarter is probably out of the window because I don't know what happens with our government, but it really scared the Kickstarter guys. I don't have a clue why. I mean, Spain is there, Italy, France, Ireland, you name it, but Portugal is not. I think we may have to give them a call or something.
Yeah.
So we cannot do Kickstarter at the moment. We'll see, maybe not. But we can do Indiegogo in principle. So we probably do that. Why? Well, it's more exposure, a bit more funding. I mean, we are acquiring models. We are paying artists that are all contractors. Hugo is coordinating all that and doing some of the stuff himself. But we will need some more funding because it's tricky. Because the next milestone after that will be Steam. We want to be in Steam early access. It's not completely yet decided, but we want to be there. We want to be in Steam early access to benefit from. But as we all know, there are drawbacks. You have to be careful with what you put there, otherwise, you will get bad reviews just because something or because. So we will be implementing a tutorial system that it's not there yet. A nice one that is contextualized, one that provides you hints, one that it doesn't oblige you to read walls and walls of text. We know that. I mean, we've been reading that forever. We've been doing that forever. So we'll try to do our best with the tutorial, and then when we have all these features, more feedback, and the revamped user interface that is going right now and will be polished, that I think looks great. I think Google did a fantastic job on the style, very futuristic style. I personally, I'm always that guy that doesn't matter right now. Well, now it starts to matter. Because the game is open for pre-order. Big discussion, very big discussions. So yeah, we wanted to get the gameplay right, but there is a time where you really need to put the usability there, because without there, the VIPs and the pre-order guys will just don't understand the game, and that's the problem. So that's why we are revamping it now, so that people can have an even more friendly UI, more pleasing experience. And so with all that, the revamped UI, the new features, the tutorial, I think we'll be finally in position, and let's see if we do crowdfunding to go to Steam Early Access. And then we'll go there and plan to stay there for 6 to 9 months. We'll see. Depending on when we enter there, it will be probably next year, but when, I don't know. It may be in the winter or in the spring. And then we plan to stay there for 6 to 9 months to get all the support and feedback from a bigger crowd for all other types of bugs and problems, hardware, etc. So that's really the plan.
That sounds like a healthy roadmap. So it sounds like about 2 years out for roughly till final release, which sounds pretty healthy and reasonable.
Yeah, we're still in pre-alpha,
right?
And the reason why we say it's pre-alpha is because it's not so usual, probably. But in any case, pre-alpha because I mean the game is not complete right now, so and it's not just tiny bits. If it was just tiny bits, it's okay, and you could call it alpha by all means. But no, I mean there's no race customization there. There's no espionage, ground combat, and bombardment. So it is pre-alpha. It is what it is. So, but we plan to be on alpha around Steam early access time. We'll probably get on alpha, and then beta at some point down the road, probably on the summer, and then release at the end of the year.
That sounds perfectly reasonable. We do have to start wrapping up, so let me just throw this out there, folks. The game is Interstellar Space Genesis, and you can get it by going to interstellarspacegame.com. The pre-alpha is $24.95 right now. That'll get you all future versions of the game. That'll get you a Steam key, yada yada yada. Right now it's on Humble, So you get a
No,
humble.
not Steam key yet.
Oh no!
It's
Well, no. When the Steam
humble
keys are
bundle.
available, I
Oh
meant.
yes.
When they're
When it will be
available, you will
available.
get one. I apologize. I should have been clear.
Correct. No, sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, but
Plus, you get like 5 points of influence with the Antarans if you pre.
There you go.
But yeah, folks, I've put about a little more than an hour or so into the game so far, and even though, as Adam was saying, there's stuff that isn't there, it's still a fairly complete experience. It still feels really nice. So I'm really looking forward to watching this game evolve over the next year and a half to 2 years before it hits release. And I really like how you guys are, even though you say, and everyone says they're trying to do Master of Orion, they're like an homage to Master of Orion 2. You guys are really trying to do something different here, which is nice. You're not just trying to be Master of Orion 2. So that is real. That is really nice because everyone else just, even Master of Orion Conquer the Galaxy tried to be Master of Orion 2, and it couldn't even succeed at mimicking itself, basically.
How I like to see it, the vision, I would like to see it and transmit to our viewers is, as it all started, is what will the Master of Orion series game could look now? I mean, there was the official one, of course, but how would it look like? Now with all those gameplay fundamentals that Master of Orion 2 had, what would it be today? Of course, when you have not an official sequel, but when you have an official sequel to Civilization, for instance, you don't have the same. Of course, the fundamentals are the same, but then you tweak and you change and you experiment with new things. So the idea is to keep the fundamentals in, and we'll be very strict about it because that's I think where the problem usually is. People get to stray from the fundamentals like turn-based tactical combat, ship design, free space-based movement with the range limitations, so no star lanes. Leaders, very important. Some games have, some don't. We will have deep colony management with a deep terraforming system. You will see your buildings there. You will see your colony to get in touch with your colony, and you will have your race customization also not present in many games like these. And you'll have your espionage and sabotage. Maybe not the exact same, but you'll have. So with these fundamentals and with what sets us apart, so the new stuff like the remote exploration we talked about, the deeper terraforming mechanics where you will be able to terraform your planets or evolve them, uplift them, a social engineering system, culture system that we discussed, the expanded leader system that doesn't have only skills and are randomly upgraded. No, you have traits, you have desires. They will ask you stuff to do. There will be implications. They will have an opinion about you. They may defect. They may sabotage your stuff. But if you meet their demands, they will give you further benefits. And then we'll have other tweaks and other changes in the combat. We'll keep the basics of the turn-based combat, but we'll have a power overload mechanic that will allow you to, I will, again, another decision of, I will allocate more power to weapons or to shields or to engines and get a bonus on that. And then you have a cooldown. And so our hope is that with this mix of keeping the fundamentals and innovating in special areas that give something new to the player, that we will please the people that were demanding this type of game for a long time.
Yeah, if you can make your turn-based combat play just like the new Battlestar Galactica game, that'd be great.
Yeah, right. Maybe
We
that'll.
love Deadlock.
Oh my god, yeah, it's so good. If you guys haven't played it, so yeah,
I have to check it.
yeah, it's
So just
good.
to finish that,
Sure.
what we're trying to do is really the 1/3 rule. The 1/3 rule of Sid Meier is you want, when you make a sequel or an evolution of something, you want to 1/3 you want to keep the same, 1/3 you want to improve, and 1/3 you want to do new. So that's what we are aiming here to do.
I like that. I don't know if I've
That's
heard
better
that
than
before.
that's better than the EA 1/3 rule. It's 1/3 of the games in the DLC.
We plan to have DLCs.
There's nothing wrong with DLC as long as you don't charge the amount of the game for a season pass for the DLC.
Wow. These games are hard. I mean, I will not
No,
say
I
that
know.
game will not. They are hard to get right. So
Oh, yeah.
we have to do our road.
But I can already tell you guys are on the right track. So I'm really excited because I just love how you keep exploration going. That just makes me so excited because I just love exploration so much. So
Yeah,
that just
I
makes
mean,
me so
people are
excited.
reporting ending games and even planets being discovered, being popped up at them.
Right.
So yeah, you can. It's possible.
Yeah,
You
well-
can bring exploration to the very end.
I just
So
like
Will
seeing.
there be an exploration victory condition where, say, be the first race to have 85% of the galaxy fully scanned?
It could be an achievement. That, as I said, we are still working on it, the system, but we're really keen on doing that and add that at some point. It could be an achievement
Well,
that
I
you
was just thinking
fulfill
in
and you
terms
win.
of. I was thinking in terms of also you have information brokers. You know, you can be the race. It's an information broker where you're buying information about
Yes.
these scans, and then you're selling them to other races because they also want to win too.
Yes, that's also one of the possible features is to trade sector information. Yeah, you could do that. You could share information among other races, and if there's an achievement victory condition for that, then yes, you in principle we could do it.
Glad to hear it.
All right, folks, we do need to wrap up. We have a hard stop in a few minutes. But I want to
Okay.
thank Adam and Hugo for taking the time to join us to talk about your game. I gotta say again, the time I've put into it has been really enjoyable. It's been fun decisions almost every turn. You know, fun decisions almost every turn. Just really fun stuff. So, folks, just to wrap up a couple programming notes. First, if you haven't seen on the social media, we are running a contest right now where you can win a copy of 3030 Death War Redo. It comes out, I believe, tomorrow or Thursday, as we record this. Yeah, it comes out of early access tomorrow or Thursday. I think tomorrow. And I've got some keys to give away. So if you want to enter, head over to our Steam forums and check out how you can enter. I'll be giving one away for every entry next week, so I'm very excited about that. On Thursday, for the LAN party, we're going to be giving Section 8 Prejudice a try. That has been requested numerous times, surprisingly. I thought the game was dead, but apparently it still works.
We did the sound effect from Altered Beast, where it's like, rise from your grave.
Right. Apparently multiplayer still works. Apparently the game for Windows Live servers are still running. Apparently multiplayer still works. So we're going to give it a shot. And then next week we are back for the podcast at our usual time of 5:30 p.m. Pacific to talk to the developer of a game we all really like around here. The fast-playing card game Solar Settlers is who we're talking to next week. So that's going to be fun. We all really enjoy that game. But yeah,
finally have that settled.
But yeah, folks, again, the game we're talking about today is called Interstellar Space Genesis. Again, you can go to interstellarspacegame.com to buy into the pre-alpha for $24.95. It already feels pretty complete. I mean, again, there are some things missing. It's a pre-alpha. Please go in knowing that it's very, 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 very early access. But it still feels really nice. It is really fun to play. So, Adam and Hugo, thank you so much for joining us. And we'll have to revisit with you guys maybe next year once the game hits Steam or hits beta. We'll have to circle back. Yeah, we'll have to
absolutely.
We'll have to circle back and see how things are going. But it's been great talking to you. So, folks, thank you so much for listening and watching on the stream, and we will see you next week. Have a great one, folks. Bye-bye.